And we kick off this evening with a look at the cinema.
I'm not a complicated man. I like cinema.
It's beautiful, beautiful cinema.
Cinema history come to life.
I found my solace in the small cinema I went to every Thursday night.
I'm a professor of cinema.
I go to the cinema for the stories.
There was no competition between the cinema and seminar.
I mean, it's not within the realm of conventional cinema.
And now,
here's Pace and Johnson
with a cinema review.
It is Monday, July 21st, 7 EST, and thank you for joining me for another episode of Cinemaster's Reviews. Coming to you guys a little earlier this week, coming to you an hour early. Usually I do it at 8 EST. Had to take care of some things today for multiplex, so have to shoot an hour early. But thank you all for joining me. Exciting show this week. I'm going to be reviewing Eddington, the newest film from Ari Aster, as well as the sequel to the 1997 horror film I Know What You Did Last Summer, also titled I Know What You Did Last Summer. I say we jump right in, starting with our first review of the night, Eddington, directed by Ari Aster. This is the fourth studio film from Ari Aster, his fourth film with A24. Really cool. He's director of such films such as Hereditary, Midsommar, Beau is Afraid. I reviewed Beau is Afraid in my first year of the show. This film is set in May 2020, during the early stages of the COVID-19 pandemic, and it centers on a small New Mexico town called Eddington. We are essentially centered on our main character by the name of Joe Cross. He is the sheriff of this town. He is someone that is not a fan of the mask policy and doesn't think that, and believes that the current mayor, Ted Garcia, played by Pedro Pascal, is not doing a good job getting tourism back into Eddington and keeping the people of Eddington happy. So Joe Cross, played by Joaquin Phoenix, decides, you know what, I'm going to run for mayor and show that I am a candidate for the people. Ted Garcia also has history with Joe Cross's wife, played by Emma Stone. There's a little bit of trepidatious history there. Joe Cross's wife's a little bit muted, is very like demure in a way, and a lot of history there. And we sort of see essentially what was going on through Middle America's head during the COVID-19 pandemic and all the nightmares that sort of happened in late May. Of course, if you know that was around the time of the George Floyd protest. That was when Pizzagate was becoming a big thing. And Ari Aster is tackling a lot of these ideas with this film. Ari Aster is a filmmaker I've been 2 for 3 with. I wasn't the biggest fan of Midsommar. I'm definitely in the minority there. I know a lot of people really like that. Just not a fan of the characters with that one. I think that's the only one where I feel like Ari Aster is really leaning into his worst tendencies as a director, but I adore Hereditary, and I really, really liked Beau is Afraid. So coming into this movie, I was really intrigued to see what Ari Aster was going to do, tackling something that I feel like a lot of filmmakers are a little afraid to go after. I think us as a general audience doesn't like to probably feels the coronavirus pandemic is still a little too recent to make stories about. I think a filmmaker like Ari Aster, who is always willing to capture like what a living nightmare looks like and feels like, I think it makes perfect sense for him to place a movie in this setting. And while this movie doesn't feature the gross out visuals, well, it definitely feels more grounded than a lot of Ari Aster's other films. I think this is one of the best films at capturing just the absolute desolate, like, hopelessness of 2020. That was, of course, a time that I lived through. I, of course, hated being away from everyone. It was, of course, something that I think we needed to do. And I think this movie does a great job of showing how everyone was confused at that time, and no one really knew how to handle that situation. The character of Joe Cross, when we're first introduced to him, I would not say he's a really like bad guy. Like he definitely seems like selfish. Like we learn early on the character is asthmatic, and he used that as an excuse to not wear masks. And he is he doesn't like the way that certain people are treating people during this time, and that is why he starts his campaign. But as you see his campaign go, you see that he is very clearly just here to spark controversy. He is believing the lies the media are telling him, and I think his character is really, really funny. Ted Garcia is a character that, again, we were introduced, and we think that that he has the city's best intentions in mind. But then when we see his house, he is hoarding all this toilet paper. He's hoarding all these paper towels. He is clearly there just to try and be like your standard politician, like someone who is just caring about his donors, caring about his bottom line. We see a lot of protesters that are protesting how the pandemic is being held, and they are very much in like that is very much Ari Aster like sort of tackling like all the like performative liberalism that was going around at that time of like really trying to be like, oh, that'll show them we're gonna shout from our rooftops. And I think it is really fascinating just how Ari Aster just puts you right into the hellscape that was 2020 and just makes you relive it. And yes, while it is very humorous, you're very stressed out watching this movie because as most of us have lived through that, we are just constantly reminded, wow, there was nothing good about this time, especially with how all the information was being delivered to us and how we were all reacting to all these situations. It captures awkward moments really, really well. The day that Joe Cross decides to run for mayor, we see him at this grocery store. We see the manager kick someone out that is refusing to wear a mask. And then we see Joe Cross from a good point be like, you know what, I'm just going to buy this guy's groceries. I'm the sheriff. They're not going to boss me around. And then we see him go to his car and immediately say like, and this is why I'm running for mayor. And it's very much just a spur of the moment, a spur of the moment thought from him. There is a really funny moment where Joe Cross is confronting Ted Garcia at his house and Katy Perry's Firework is playing, and it just does a really great job of like capturing Ari Aster is really, really great at awkward humor, and I think those moments show really, really well his strength as a writer. I think most of the performances here are excellent. Joaquin Phoenix is great as Joe Cross. Joe Cross is just such a funny character of like slowly through how Phoenix plays the part, you slowly start to realize just how dumb this character is and just how evil he is, how he has forced himself to believe that everyone around him is wrong and that everyone is telling him, hey, we need to handle this virus safely. We need to handle it responsibly. He truly feels like everyone is trying to put him down and he is a victim, and how Phoenix does a really great job playing this character in a really, really like dumb light. Like this character drives around in a car and it says your preferred and he says and the car has a sticker that says "You're being lied to," and it's spelled Y-O-U-R. That just shows like how this character thinks he's really smart, but there's obviously just nothing really there. And I think Phoenix does a great job of playing this aloof-like nature, but also like this weird sense of confidence. Emma Stone, this is one of her more muted performances. I think the last time I saw her in a movie, I don't think I've seen her since Poor Things, which she's excellent in. She won that Oscar for a reason. And I think her being in this performance where she's a lot more soft spoken. We learn this character has had some traumatic events happen to her, and her marriage with Joe is a little bit loveless at this point. And Emma Stone does a really great job of playing this character in a much more quiet way. There are just certain things that are revealed about this character that Aster does a great job of presenting that knowledge in a not so like in your face way. And I really, really enjoyed that. I think Pedro Pascal does a great job at playing this character who is likable. He is this political figure that you understand why people like, why they want to root for him. But he also just has like this weird charismatic energy to him where he feels like a corporate stooge. And just as the movie starts to go on, you start to see certain things be revealed about this character where he seems like he might be a little bit more sinister, but you see from his point of view, he's like, look, nothing happened, but everyone's just going to spin this through lies. Deidre O'Connor is really good in this movie. Austin Butler plays this cult leader, and he almost seems like born to play this sort of like really like dark and messed up character, but has this weird like charismatic angle to him. I personally wish they would have done a little bit more with Austin Butler's character. We learned that Joe's wife has become indoctrinated by him, and we don't get too much with him. Ari Aster's trying to tackle a lot of different things in this movie, and I think that was just something that was just left a little bit on the cutting room floor. I personally would have liked that a little bit more. But yeah, this movie is Ari Aster is using this to tackle a lot of ideas, like around the midway point of the movie, Joe Cross decides, you know what, in order to attack Ted Garcia, I'm going to reveal what he truly believes, that the relationship that Ted had with his wife, with Joe's wife, was not a consensual relationship. And all that sort of starts to spiral about how like everyone started thinking like all these different actors during the pandemic were like in this like secret society, and they were using like pizza as their way of like as their way of communicating. A lot of like conspiracy stuff it gets into. It presents Antifa in a really, really like humorous way of how just everyone thought like Antifa was like this insane terrorist organization like Hamas or like Al Qaeda, when and you completely see that from Joe Cross's like eyes. Like I was a little confused. Like there were scenes where you have Antifa like flying into Eddington on planes and with like these assault rifles, and you're like, this is a really weird portrayal. But then you realize, oh, this is all in from Joe's point of view, and all the people of Eddington, how they view like Antifa as the devil, and they view them as something stronger than they actually are. And I think Ari Aster has a lot of great commentary there. Movie definitely does feel a little too long. It's around 2.5 hours, and I think by the third act, I think it's doing a little bit too many. I think it's tackling on a little bit too many things. It ends in this big action scene, which I thought was well directed, but I did think felt a little bit out of place, and it felt like Aster may have wrote himself into a corner. He was a little confused how to get himself out. I won't say the reason why that action scene happens, but it did just feel a little bit like, I would like to revisit this and see like what he was trying to get at that with that. I've read some things where maybe that action scene is not supposed to be literally interpreted, which I would like to see again on rewatch. But I'd be lying if I said on first watch it did 100% click with me. Yeah, like I said, this movie takes place in late May, and throughout the movie we hear how different parts of the country are reacting to the murder of George Floyd, how the cops in the town are starting to be vilified, and how Joe Cross is reacting to this in the exactly wrong way. One of the cops that works for Joe, his ex-girlfriend is someone who is a major who is like this influencer protester, and she's really mad that he is still a police officer and wants him to take action. Yeah, Ari Aster is getting at a lot of stuff with this movie, and it weirdly does still feel pretty focused. And I really do just think it's because Aster was able to tackle it with a humorous point of view, tackle it with a pessimistic view on how like everyone was kind of reacting in a poor way, but at the same time it's showing, hey, look, there was a side that was clearly being more irresponsible, being more villainous, and I'm happy that we have that we are willing to look back at that time. That I think no one wants to look back and make great stories like this. If I were to review this movie on a scale of 0 to 10, videotape, 0 being awful and 10 being absolutely incredible, I'm going to give it a very high 8.5 out of 10. I think this was a great movie. One of my one of the better movies I think I've seen this year. Yeah, Ari Aster just knows how to make these weird movies that just feel like a nightmare. And just watching how everyone is reacting in this movie, how everyone just hates each other, and how everyone's trying to get a leg up on each other, I think I think is a really great reflection on America in 2020. I think the whole cast is great. I think Astor is really great at just like nailing these like little details. Like when you're in the cop station, one of like the like dumb cops is like this like funny like anime sticker on his computer, and I found that really funny. But yeah, while it's not my favorite Ari Aster movie, I do think it is a pretty successful film, and I would recommend you go see it in theaters if you want original stories like this. I think it was really well done. But I say we jump right into our second review of the week, that being I Know What You Did Last Summer. This is a sequel slash quasi remake of the original film. It is directed by Jennifer Caitlin Robinson. I'm saying it's a sequel to the 1997 film. I do know there was a sequel to that a year later called I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. This one is about 5 teens. One of them is 2 of them are actually getting married, and on the night of the 4th of July, where they were just meant to be up in the city just celebrating the fireworks, they 2 of them end up messing around in the road, and they end up causing a car to drive off and the driver falls to their death. All five characters decide, you know what, we don't want to get in trouble. We are going to walk away and just make it seem like we weren't really here. One of our dads is really powerful in the town of Southport, and he will help make this whole situation go away, and we're just going to go on with our lives. Flash forward to a year later, one of the characters that were supposed to get married did not end up getting married, and the girl, played by Madeline Klein, Danica, is getting married to a new person, and she ends up getting a note that says, I know what you did last summer. And it seems like all 5 of them are now being targeted by someone who knows that they were involved in a manslaughter situation. This movie works as your typical run-of-the-mill slasher film. I should say I have not seen either the original I Know What You Did Last Summer or I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. Yeah, this movie in no way is trying to reinvent the wheel of like what a slasher movie is. You are essentially watching 5 young, pretty-looking characters try to make a giant mistake, and they are trying to avoid getting murdered. And slowly, one by one, they all end up getting killed until maybe one of them lives, maybe multiple of them lives, maybe none of them live. But you're really just trying to avoid this killer that we don't really know the identity of, and you're watching these characters just try to survive throughout the duration of the movie. And for a run-of-the-mill slasher film, I was fairly entertained. I can't call this a good movie per se. If you're not a fan of horror movies, this is not going to be the thing for you. But if you are a fan of horror movies, I will say that it does, for the most part, do its job. At least it did it for me. I think all 5 of the main characters are well-defined enough, minus maybe one of them. His name is Milo. The main character, her name is Iris. She's played by Chase Dewey Wonder. She's actually one of the better performances in the movie. Have you seen The Studio, or have you seen Bodies? Chase Dewey Wonder's played Quinn in The Studio. She's actually really good and brings a lot of light to this performance. She is the best friend to the girl who is getting married. She's played by Madeline Klein. But Iris, it's sort of hinted at that she has feelings for this guy named Milo. Milo is the only one that doesn't really have much of a personality. The guy that Danica was supposed to marry, I need to pull his name up, but he's actually really good. He is definitely the one that's like the most off kilter. He was the one that kind of caused the car to to spiral out off the coast because he was high that night and was just playing in the road. This character's name is Teddy, played by Tyreek Withers. Yeah, he's pretty good. Sarah Pigeon plays Stevie. We learn that Stevie is the one friend of this friend group that has sort of fallen out with the friend group, and she was just there because they ran into her because she works at a bar that was catering for the engagement party. And yes, Sarah Pigeon is actually really, really good in this movie. And yeah, most of the character, like this, it's your typical cast of 5 good-looking characters just trying to avoid getting killed. Most of the kills are fun. Most of the set pieces are pretty good. There's one really fun set piece in a cemetery towards the end of the film. You have the big like reveal of who the killer is on this boat, and I thought those were for the most part were fun. Like I said, the performances were good. Not everything is great. Like, I think too much of the dialogue is just poorly written exposition. Half the dialogue in the first, in the first 2 acts are just explaining the history of these characters, or explaining the history of Southport, and just like history of the original film. I get that you have to do it. It feels really robotic and really like manufactured. But I think probably my biggest issue with the movie is the editing. I think there are just parts where it just seems like there are shots that are just missing from this film. Like, there was a scene where Iris is at a spot that we learn was one of the spots that the killer from the original film attacked one of their victims. And Iris is just walking around, and then she turns around, and where there clearly was supposed to be an establishing shot of the villain, of the killer in like their fishing outfit, like walking up. She's clearly just it's kind of tough to explain, but there are just shots that are missing. There are often times where like you can't really keep track of what's going on. I think just the editing just could have done a much better job of like keeping everything together. But other than those aspects, which like it sucks to say, other than the editing and the writing, I didn't really have too many issues with the movie, because those are big issues. I think this movie does its job for like a junky horror film. Freddie Prinze Jr. and Jennifer Love Hewitt from the original film return, and they are pretty good in their new parts for a legacy sequel. It actually makes some fairly bold choices for what it does with those characters' fates, and I actually did kind of enjoy that. Again, I don't really have any emotional attachment to those original films, but I do think it does a decent job there. But yeah, I've seen some people sort of pile onto this movie, and I totally get that. Like, I cannot call this a good film. I totally understand if people think this is a poorly made film, because there are some key moments where I'm like, this really does just feel run of the mill. But I gotta admit, I was entertained watching the movie, and if you're just looking for a junky horror film, I would recommend it. The identity of the killer, I was actually kind of surprised. I thought I had it figured out. And when you do learn who the killer is, I do think it actually is kind of surprising. It does make sense. And yeah, I think that was well done. If I were to rate this movie on a scale of 0 to 10 videotapes, 0 being 0 being bad, 10 being good, I'm going to give it a barely passing 6 out of 10. Again, this no way reinvents the wheel. But if you're just looking for a decent way to kill hour and 45 minutes, this is the way to do it. If you're a fan of horror movies, you might enjoy this. I think this is probably something that you in no way need to rush out to the theater to see. But when it does come on streaming, I think it would be an entertaining watch for you. I will say, one of the most like jarring things in this movie, this is the first movie I've ever seen that references the AMC Nicole Kidman ad. And I just found that really, really funny. Like, I was just like, what a moment in time we are at, where that ad from AMC, where if you go and see a movie at AMC, obviously Nicole Kidman comes out and says, we come to this place for magic, and goes on this big monologue. And just seeing the characters reference that, I was like, whoa, this is weird whiplash. But regardless of that, yeah, I Know What You Did Last Summer. Not great, but I can't deny that I did have fun watching it. Thank you all for watching this week. Remember to like this video and subscribe to the video store. It helps grow our channel a lot. Again, thank you for watching this an hour earlier. Just had to take care of some things. Next week, we are going to be reviewing Fantastic Four First Steps as well as Oh Hi. Again, thank you all for tuning in. And as always, watch more movies.
And the award for most vapid film review of the century goes to...
Okay, movie review. Okay, I thought it was beauty.
And he's now in cinema hell, where one day we'll all be reunited.
This is me at the Regal Cinema crying as I did through much of the film.